Before Oxford opened its doors, before Europe called itself enlightened, Africa had universities, libraries, professors, degrees, and scholars whose words traveled farther than empires. That part of history doesn't get erased, it gets ignored. If you prefer signal over noise, subscribe.
When people imagine medieval Africa, they are shown deserts and caravans. What they are not shown are lecture halls. In the 9th century, in the city of Fez, a woman named Fatima al-Fihri founded what would become Al-Qarawiyyin, not a symbolic school, a functioning institution of higher learning. Law, theology, astronomy, mathematics. Scholars traveled from across North Africa, Al-Andalus, and the Mediterranean. Knowledge was not imported into Africa, it was produced there.
Centuries later, in the city of Timbuktu, under the Mali Empire and later the Songhai Empire, education became power. The University of Sankore was not a single building, it was a network of scholars and mosques, Sankore, Djinguereber, Sidi Yahya. Students debated jurisprudence, philosophy, medicine, poetry. Manuscripts filled private libraries. Some families guarded thousands of texts. Gold built cities, but books built authority, and authority built influence.
Europe did not conquer Timbuktu immediately. It traded with it. Trans-Saharan trade routes carried salt, gold, and manuscripts. Knowledge moved along the same roads as wealth. But as global power shifted, as Atlantic routes replaced Saharan ones, Africa's intellectual centers became less visible to the rising European narrative. When colonization came centuries later, it did not just seize land, it reframed memory. African scholarship was reduced to a footnote. Europe's universities became origins, Africa's became exceptions. Knowledge is power, but so is controlling who gets credit for knowledge. When colonial forces entered West Africa, they found libraries, manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, law, philosophy. Some texts were taken, some destroyed, some hidden by families who understood what erasure looks like. Power rarely burns every book. It only needs to rewrite the narrative.
Historians debate terminology, whether institutions like Al-Qarawiyyin or Sankore match modern definitions of university. But there is no serious dispute that structured higher learning, scholarly networks, and degree-granting systems existed in these African centers centuries before Oxford formalized itself. The record exists. The manuscripts remain. Despite invasion, despite decline, despite desert winds and political collapse, the manuscripts survived. Hidden in trunks, passed through families, smuggled during conflict. When extremists threatened Timbuktu in the 21st century, ordinary Malians risked their lives to protect the texts, because they knew what those pages meant, not just history, proof. Today, thousands of Timbuktu manuscripts are being restored, studied, digitized, reintroduced into the global story. Al-Qarawiyyin still operates. Students still walk its courtyards. The narrative that Africa was merely a receiver of knowledge is no longer defensible, and that unsettles comfortable myths. Before Oxford, before Europe's rise, Africa debated law under desert skies, calculated stars over Saharan nights, wrote, preserved, and taught. Power can conquer cities. It struggles to conquer memory. The question isn't whether these universities existed, it's why so many were taught they didn't. More stories like this. Subscribe.